If you enjoy the content on this channel, please like and subscribe. The Prince of Egypt is a 1998 American animated musical drama film produced by DreamWorks Animation and distributed by DreamWorks Pictures. It is the second feature film from DreamWorks and the first to be traditionally animated. It is an adaptation of the book of Exodus and follows the life of Moses from being a prince of Egypt to a prophet chosen by God to carry out his ultimate destiny of leading the Hebrews out of Egypt. The film was directed by Brenda Chapman, Steve Hickner, and Simon Wells in Chapman and Hickner's feature directorial debuts, and produced by Jeffrey Katzenberg, Penney Finkelman Cox, and Sandra Rabins from a screenplay written by Philip LaZebnik. It features songs written by Stephen Schwartz and a score composed by Hans Zimmer. The film includes the voice cast talents of Val Kilmer as Moses. Kilmer also provides the uncredited voice of God. Ray Fiennes as Ramses, Moses' adoptive brother and eventual successor to Seti. Michelle Pfeiffer as Zipporah, Jethro's oldest daughter and Moses' wife. Sandra Bullock as Miriam, Aaron's sister and Moses' biological sister. Jeff Goldblum as Aaron, Miriam's brother and Moses' biological brother. Tony Glover as Jethro, Zipporah's father and the Median high priest. Patrick Stewart as Pharaoh Seti, Ramesses' father and Moses' adoptive father, the Pharaoh, at the beginning of the film. Helen Mirren as Queen Tuya, Seti's wife, Ramesses' mother and Moses' adoptive mother. Steve Martin as Hotep, one of the high priests who serves as an advisor to Seti and later Ramesses. He is short and fat. And Martin Short as Hu, Hotep's fellow high priest. He is tall and thin. Afra Hazi does the voice of Yoshved, Miriam and Aaron's mother and Moses' biological mother. She sang her character's number, Deliver Us, in English and 17 other languages for the film's dubbing. She would die unfortunately on the 23rd of February 2000. Due to complications from AIDS. The film's producer, Katzenberg, had frequently suggested an animated adaptation of the 1956 film The Ten Commandments while working with the Walt Disney Company, and he decided to put the idea into production after leaving Disney and co-founding DreamWorks Pictures in 1994. In April of 1994, Disney Studios president Frank Wells was killed in a helicopter crash. Katzenberg had assumed that Michael Eisner would appoint him as Wells' successor, but Eisner refused. In August of that same year, he called Katzenberg into his office and handed him a 4-page memorandum about impending staff changes, which included Katzenberg's immediate resignation. The idea for The Prince of Egypt was the first film discussed at the formation of DreamWorks Pictures in 1994, when Katzenberg's partners, Amblin Entertainment founder Steven Spielberg and music producer David Geffen, were in a meeting in Spielberg's living room. Katzenberg wanted to tackle bigger-than-life stories like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, The Terminator and Lawrence of Arabia. Katzenberg recalled Spielberg looked at him during the meeting and said, "You ought to do the Ten Commandments then." To make the project, DreamWorks employed artists who had worked with Walt Disney Feature Animation and Amblimation, totaling a crew of 350 people from 34 countries. The film has a blend of traditional animation and computer-generated imagery created using software from Toon Boom Animation and Silicone Graphics. The Prince of Egypt premiered at the Royce Hall in Los Angeles on December 16, 1998, and was released in theaters on December 18th, followed by a release on home video on September 14, 1999. Reviews were generally positive, with critics praising the visual, song, score and voice acting. The film would go on to gross $218 million worldwide in theaters, which made it the most successful non-Disney animated feature film at the time. The film had a working budget of $60 million. The film's success led to direct-to-video prequel Joseph King of Dreams in 2000 and a stage musical adaptation which opened in London's West End in 2020. The song, When You Believe, became a commercially successful single in a pop version performed by Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey, and went on to win Best Original Song at the 71st Academy Awards, making it the first animated film independently outside of a Disney and Pixar films, as well as the first DreamWorks Animation film to receive Academy Awards, succeeded by Shrek in 2001 and Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit in 2005. The film also won the inaugural Critics' Choice Movie Award for Best Animated Feature, in a tie with Disney and Pixar's A Bug's Life. In decades since its release, The Prince of Egypt has widely been acclaimed and regarded as one of DreamWorks' best ever films and one of the greatest animated films of all time. Some trivia notes. The task of creating God's voice was given to Lon Bender and the team working with the film's music composer Hans Zimmer. According to Bender, the challenge with that voice was to try and evolve it into something that had not been heard before. To avoid controversy with the voice of God, the idea was for all the major actors in the film to voice the role. The actors were told to whisper their lines, so none would dominate the performance. But by the time they got around to having Val Kilmer read the lines, they realized they needed someone to be louder. You can still hear the rest of the cast whispering beneath Kilmer's voice in God's lines. The filmmakers likened the decision that it was like God was acting as Moses' inner voice in order to guide him. The 4-minute parting of the Red Sea sequence took teleanimators 2 years to complete. During the parting of the Red Sea, many viewers thought that they saw a whale swim with a school of fish past the travelers. However, the sea creature moves its tail from side to side, which whales do not do. This means that the sea creature was a whale shark. They are large and their tail goes from side to side. The production team and executive producer Jeffrey Katzenberg conferred with roughly 600 religious experts to make this movie as accurate and faithful to the original story as possible. After previewing the developing movie, all the religious scholars, experts and leaders associated in making of the film noted that the studio executives listened and responded to their ideas and praised the studio for reaching out for comment from outside sources. When Moses enters the cave with the burning bush, God tells him to take off his sandals, for he is standing on holy ground. But when Moses leaves the cave, he does not put his sandals back on and is barefoot for the rest of the movie. The movie was banned in Malaysia, Maldives and in Egypt. Ofra Haza recorded her famous River Lullaby while singing to a baby doll to allow herself to express as much emotion as possible. Steven Spielberg insisted that at the end of the film, Moses is carrying the actual 10 Commandments. The filmmakers have suggested that it is possible that Ramesses II died when the Red Sea closed, and that his final line, Moses, is imagined by Moses, almost as wishful thinking. This is why they appear on screen at the same time during that moment. Now, how do you start in reviewing a film like this? Let me start with the positives. Firstly, the film is visually breathtaking. With its detailed backgrounds and expressive character designs that bring the story to life, the scenes depicting the plagues and the parting of the Red Sea are most particularly impressive. Also, the wonderful voice acting in The Prince of Egypt is top-notch. Val Kilmer and Fiennes in particular deliver convincing and nuanced performances here as Moses and Ramses. But frankly, the whole voice cast are absolutely excellent. The film also features memorable and emotional music score here by Hans Zimmer, as well as phenomenal songs here by Stephen Schwartz. The opening song Deliver Us is beautiful, powerful and mesmerizing, and of course who can forget the huge song that When You Believe became. It's particularly impactful in the film, but of course the version done by the famous Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston really added gravitas to this already phenomenal song. The film has strong themes which explores that of identity, faith, leadership and the struggle for freedom, and I found the narrative to be exceptionally well paced, balancing action, drama and emotion. All in all, this is a beautifully made piece of animated filmmaking. Now let me talk a bit more about the controversial aspects of the film. For someone who isn't religious, the film's religious aspect may be seen as a compelling exploration of the timeless story that has significant cultural and historical relevance. The story of Moses is well known across different cultures, and the film effectively uses this tale to convey the themes of liberation, justice, and the struggle against oppression, which are universal and relatable. Overall, I'd say the film's treatment of the story is respectful and it mostly adheres to the traditional narrative of Moses' journey, from his origins as a Hebrew baby saved by Pharaoh's daughter to his confrontation with the Pharaoh and the eventual exodus of the Israelites. However, The Prince of Egypt is not without its creative liberties. For instance, it condenses certain aspects of the story and changes the dynamics between characters, such as the relationship between Moses and Ramses. These changes are made to streamline the story and heighten the drama, and may differ from the strict interpretation of the religious texts. Regarding the portrayal of the Egyptians, the film mostly focuses on the ruling class, particularly the Pharaoh and his family. The Egyptian people are shown as somewhat passive, particularly in the face of Moses' confrontation with the Pharaoh. However, there are instances where they are depicted as suffering under the plagues brought on by Moses' interventions. The film really doesn't dive deeply into the complexity of Egyptian society or culture during the time period, and really sort of makes the Pharaoh out to be the bad guy, as it were. Of course, the slavery of the Israelites was disgusting and wrong, but the cruelty shown in return by inflicting the plagues upon them, as well as allowing the firstborn to be killed and letting the Pharaoh's army drown within the Red Sea, are just strange juxtapositions within a story that is telling us about how God freed his people, yet destroyed others to do so. It's one of those films that I didn't want to watch because of the religious aspect. I know the Exodus story exceptionally well, and there's two ways to enjoy this film. One as just a story, which is beautifully told, beautifully made, and superbly put forth, and another version looking into the religious aspects of this timeless tale, understanding its meaning, and maybe not applying it so literally. Look, I believe this is a film that can be enjoyed by audiences of all backgrounds, as it tells the story of the human struggle, triumph, and the quest for freedom. Of course, some of it is controversial, and I tend to view the film more in a mythological sense than that of a religious narrative. Even though I do believe there's a lot of truth to the tale, and science can explain a lot of the plagues, for example. and even the crossing of, say, a Reed Sea rather than a Red Sea, as it may have been misinterpreted from the original Aramaic language. The film itself will stand out as a beautiful animation, powerful music, and excellent storytelling, even if you don't necessarily agree with the subject matter. I think that is what makes this film so powerful, is that it can appeal both to religious and secular audiences. The film also importantly presents a pivotal moment in Jewish history and culture, showcasing the story of the Israelite struggle for freedom from Egyptian bondage. And I do like the complex portrayal here of Moses evolving from an Egyptian prince to a determined leader of his people. With its groundbreaking animation, excellent voice acting, and well put forth story of the Exodus, The Prince of Egypt gets an 8.5 out of 10.